Let me tell you guys, this season has been unbelievable. Like, college football and NFL. This is just fucking crazy. Anyways, welcome back to another episode of Grizzly Talks Football. We got ourselves Week 9 college football reactions along with the Week 10 AP poll reaction and also Week 10 game day pick. Yeah, I keep forgetting to mention the college game day picks every time I do a college football video, but there you go. No upsets between ranked and unranked teams, but we had plenty of ranked versus ranked games. We had some top 25 matchups with some blowouts, some close games. We're going to get to all of that in this episode. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that red subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss a video. And if you are new to this series, I will leave a link to the full entire playlist so that you guys can go watch every single video so you don't miss everything, so that you're all caught up. And you can also have it there in case I post new videos. Well, when I post new videos, like this one and also the ones on Tuesday and Wednesday that I will talk about on those days. Without further ado, let's go to the games. We're kicking things off with college game day in Bloomington, where the Hoosiers of Indiana, 13th ranked, took down the Huskies from Washington 31-17. I feel like a damn fool for doubting Indiana. I feel like an idiot. Man, that QB room really sure did prove me wrong. And also the running game as well, but I think that Indiana's in good hands even without Curtis Rourke. And also the defense stepped up too because they did not allow a single touchdown pass and they picked off Will Rogers twice. Well, David Jackson actually threw a touchdown even though he did throw an interception. Not very much pass in this game. Well, that's because the rushing game took over the entire offense. Like for Washington, Jonah Coleman had 100 yards. The 2 touchdowns came from quarterback Damon Williams and also Giles Jackson. And the receiving leaders for Washington were Jeremiah Hunter with 4 catches for 60 yards. Every single 3 of Washington's receivers had 4 catches. Jeremiah Hunter had 60 yards. Kaliki Latu had 50. And Denzel Boston at 43. What a name. And then there's Indiana with Justice Ellison having 123 yards, 4 yards to carry, and a score, with David Jackson also putting up a rushing touchdown. And as for receiving, not much to really show for except Amari Cooper had a 42-yard receiving touchdown this game. I gotta say the defense is where everything clicks for both teams. I mean, obviously Washington didn't get to David Jackson at all in the entire game, but 3 players had double-digit tackles. Bruner, Esteen, and Tupatala with a pick by Jacob Bands. Same thing with Indiana, they got to the quarterback 3 times in this game, and D'Angelo Pons got both of the interceptions and even returned one for a touchdown. Crazy stuff from Indiana. Overall, this game was just crazy good, and I apologize, Indiana, for ever doubting you at all. I sure hope you at least make the Big 10 championship game, because we're not so sure if you're going to stay undefeated after Ohio State game. So we'll have to see what happens. But in the meantime, great win and you're still unbeaten. By the way, if you see a ranking next to a team that isn't ranked, just ignore it because there's a glitch in Sports Reference that has their highest rank in there or their last ranking in there. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, big noon kickoff had Nebraska losing to Ohio State in a close game, 21-17. Ohio State, this is not the game we were expecting before the Penn State game next week, which is going to be college game day. Ooh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, my apologies for spoiling it, but you're going to see the college game day game at the end, so might as well tell you what it was, because they already revealed it. Once again, Dylan Raiola struggled in another game. He had no touchdowns, an interception, and 152 yards. Will Howard actually played amazing with 200 yards and 3 touchdowns despite the 1 pick. The rushing game was really where the only touchdown happened offensively for Nebraska, with Dante Dowdle getting the rushing touchdown and 60 yards on 4 yards a carry. Pretty solid. And the receivers really need to be talked about are Ja'Cory Barney, who had 7 catches for 49 yards, and Thomas Fadone, who had 4 for 55. But Nebraska's defense completely shut down the run game. Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson held to under 30 yards each of them. It's just a shame that they got burned on through the air because Quinshon Judkins had a receiving touchdown this game, with Cardinal Tate having 4 catches, 102 yards and a score, and Jeremiah Smith also having 3 catches, 70 yards, and another score. Nebraska did get to the quarterback twice in this game. 10 tackles for Deshaun Singleton, and the only interception for this defense was Malcolm Hartzog, who had an interception for 34 yards. I don't know why I'm even reading that. As for Ohio State's defense, they got to the quarterback 3 times, and they even picked him off once, with Jordan Hancock getting the interception and even a forced fumble, which was recovered by Nebraska. By the way, I do want to give props to John Hull, Nebraska's kicker, getting over half of Nebraska's points with field goals. This was definitely a close victory for Ohio State, not what they were hoping for before they get to a very big Big Ten matchup against the Nittany Lions, but you still won nonetheless, I guess. Before we get to the ranked versus ranked matchups, I want to give a big shout out to the BYU Cougars. You know I do this every week. Anyways, the Cougars, the 11th ranked BYU Cougars, came into the bounce house and beat UCF by 13, 37-24. Man, when is this streak gonna end? Who knows, but that's a great way to enter a bye week, staying unbeaten for now, 8-0. I will say, Gus Malzahn, you're not a very good fit for UCF because, man, you have played 3 quarterbacks this season, and it's safe to say that barely any of them even are working out. I mean, Ja'Carri Brown had 2 interceptions, under 100 yards passing, and Dylan Risk 100 yards on 6 of 10. He did throw a touchdown though, but that was pretty much it. Jake Redsoff, man, this was a good game. He had 3 total touchdowns, 200 passing yards, 2 through the air, and 1 on the ground. Speaking of the rushing game, LJ Martin had 100 yards on almost 7 yards a carry and a touchdown on the ground. Hinkler Rapati even had 7 yards a carry as well. And like I said before, Jake Retzloff also had a rushing touchdown. Chase Roberts led the receiving corps with 2 catches for 75 yards and a score. I think Darius Lassiter had a big catch in the first play of the game, and he ended up with 4 catches for 54 yards, with the other touchdown going to Matavataze for a score. And as for UCF, at least you guys have RJ Harvey running up the gut in front of us. Man, 8 yards to carry between Dylan Risk and Harvey. 127 yards and 2 touchdowns for the guy. And the lead receiver, surprisingly, was Jacoby Jones, who had 6 catches, 116 yards, and the only receiving touchdown in the game, with Kobe Hudson only having 1 catch? What? So I'm guessing we did a good job of stopping Kobe Hudson from making a potential triple head monster. Obviously, our defense picked off Ja'Carri Brown twice, once by Isaiah Glasker and the other by Valatao Santuala. And the only sack was by Blake Mangelson. I mean, UCF's defense didn't do terrible. I mean, they had 3 sacks, 2 of them from Dalen Dotson. I mean, they had 2 forced fumbles, but they just could not force any interceptions or turnovers in general. Oh wait, yeah, they forced 1. Malachi Lawrence got a fumble recovery, but fortunately that wasn't enough. I will say Will Ferrin was a dog this week. Man, he was perfect this game. 13 points, he made 3 field goals as well as 4 extra points. He did himself a solid. He did very well. Obviously, we got a bye week next week, and we got to play the Utah Utes in the Holy War in Rice Eccles the next week. Really looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the game that Utah had because obviously it's really not important, but Utah, you lost to Houston? Not the Houston Texans, the Houston Cougars in football. This is now 4 straight L's for Utah, and after starting 4-0 and being in the top 10, man, the fall off needs, seriously, the fall off needs to be studied. It's just, I'm really nervous that Utah's going to lose 4 straight games just to beat us when they're at home. Like, it might happen, and I'm not looking forward to it. Hopefully we can beat them, but I'm really nervous for that game. Because our rush defense needs to get better because we're playing Micah Bernard in 2 weeks. So if our rush defense does not improve, we got a problem. Kicking off the top 25 matchups, we got Notre Dame absolutely smacking the then unbeaten Navy midshipmen 51-14. Damn. Sorry, Navy, you had to run into a juggernaut who lost to Northern Illinois, but Notre Dame is a good team, I will say that. Notre Dame just has a lot of talented players that could stop the Navy's triple option playbook, and it really did show. Even though Horvath did have 7-13, unfortunately he did have an interception in less than 100 yards. Like, when have you seen an Army and Navy quarterback have 100 passing yards? You barely ever see it because it's an option playbook. And as for Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, no turnovers at all. And my goodness, did you see the turnover battle? 6 turnovers? Because of 5 fumbles. God. At least Navy had some points. I mean, Horvath ran for a long touchdown, and Eli Heidenreich even had a rushing touchdown, with the only leading receiver really to worry about was a running back by the name of Alex Texa, who had 2 catches for 39 yards. As for Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love had a very good game with 8.5 yards to carry, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Navy just could not stop the run themselves. Like, Freddie Leonard even added a rushing touchdown, so did Kedron Young. And the 2 touchdown passes went to Bo Collins and Chris Mitchell, with leading the way in receiving in yards was Jordan Faison. Unfortunately, Navy's defense could only muster up 1 sack, but 2 players had double-digit tackles in Kyle Jacob and Colin Ramos. But my God, Notre Dame's defense forced 5 fumbles. Like, yeah. Jack Kaiser got 1. The touchdown was by Jalen Sneed. And, yeah, that was basically it. Like, Jack Kaiser, Jalen Sneed had solid games because Sneed had a fumble return for a touchdown. Schuler had a fumble recovery. Tui Halamaka had a fumble recovery, and so did Rod Hurd. Wow, 5 forced fumbles. Crazy stuff. Well, actually, it was 0 forced fumbles. I guess it was just unforced errors by Navy that Notre Dame was able to take advantage of. As far as the Group of 5 playoff bid, it's Boise State's bid to lose right now, because Boise State may have 1 loss, but it was to the number 1 team in the country, and they are still the front runner for that Group of 5 spot in the playoff. So, Navy, this is a minor step back because Notre Dame is better than you guys, unfortunately. You guys have only had 2 victories in like almost 2 decades. What's going on there? And good shit, Notre Dame. You guys are still good. You guys are still late. I will give you that. Up next, we got Missouri getting shut out by Alabama, 34-0, 15 shutting out 21. Yep, Missouri is a one-year wonder. But you know what really bothers me? Why Jalen Milroe has 0 passing touchdowns, even though they scored 34 points. But I guess the rushing game was just too much for Missouri to even make up for. And my gosh, Brady Cook got hurt, and it just falls apart for Missouri. Like, Drew Pine had 3 interceptions in this game. Not very good. The rushing game was actually solid, with Marcus Carroll, Jamal Roberts combining for 150 rushing yards. But yeah, that was pretty much the entire offense all game. And as for Bama, 4 rushing touchdowns between 3 players. Jalen Milroe got a rushing touchdown. Jam Miller had 2, and Justice Haynes 10 yards to carry, 79 yards, and a score. 17-year-old Ryan Williams had 4 catches for 53 yards, but the leading receiving was definitely Jeremy Bernard, who had 5 catches for 82. And can I also mention that Richard Young had 3 carries for 63 yards in this entire game? I guess he had a long run for like a big gain or something like that, but wow, some impressive stuff from Bama's rushing game. Well, there's not much really to talk about for Missouri's defense, except Marvin Burks got double-digit tackles, and Johnny Walker got the only sacks in the game. And surprisingly, Alabama only had 1 sack courtesy of Jahan Campbell, but 3 interceptions. Bray Hubbard, Malachi Moore, you know, the guy who had a crash out against Vandy, and also Quay Rousseau. Not much else to say about this game, except this proves my point that Alabama is still going to be good short term, but long term, not so much, because these are still Saban's players that DeBauer is coaching. But Bama still does have a chance at the playoff this year. And me being a college football fan hates every single bit of that statement. And the next game we got is Oregon as the top-ranked team crushing Illinois 38-9. Wow. Well, it's safe to say Oregon is a top team, most definitely. Yeah, Oregon is definitely a championship contender right now. And this further proves that Dylan Gabriel is still, in fact, a Heisman candidate. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And then Luke Altmaier having one of his worst games in the season. 2 interceptions and 160 yards on the pass. Luckily for Illinois, they were still able to get a touchdown courtesy of Khalil Valentine. And receiving, not much there except for Zachary Franklin getting 6 catches for 72 yards. As for Oregon, Jordan James, 83 rushing yards, and Whittington had a touchdown with 8 yards to carry, and Dylan Gabriel had a rushing touchdown to his impressive stat line. The leader receiving was Tez Johnson, who had 6 catches, 100 yards, and a score, with the other 2 touchdowns going to Whittington, who had 2 touchdowns on the day, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air, and Justice Lowe. Or is it Justice? Whoever you want to say. I think it's Justice Lowe. Dylan Rosick had a double-digit tackles on the game, and only 1 sack by Gabe Jacques, and Tyson Rooks had the interception, the only one of the game. As for Oregon's defense, 3 sacks. Tysheem Johnson had interception along with double-digit tackles, and the other interception was by Sione Lalea. Oh yeah, Nico Reed and Dante Manning had 3 and 2 pass defenses respectively. Now the big question is, can Oregon actually maintain a very good win streak and win it all? That's going to be the big question, and I say no. Maybe they have a chance at winning a Big Ten title, but definitely not running the table. Up next we have Texas edging out Vandy 27-24 between 5 and 25. What the hell, Vandy? You're competing with Texas after you beat Alabama? Really? Oh yeah, Vandy has 5 wins. If they get 1 more victory, they're going to a bowl game. Definitely not going to the playoff though. Sorry, Vandy fans, but yeah, that dream is dead. Quinn Ewers didn't do terrible. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns, almost 300 yards, but he did have 2 interceptions in this game. Unfortunately for Diego Pavia, he did have 2 picks, but he did almost have 150 yards with 2 touchdowns in this game, so he wasn't that bad either. The rushing game was led by Trey Wisner, who had 79 rushing yards. Receiving was, of course, led by DeAndre Moore, who had 6 catches, almost 100 yards, and 2 scores, with the other touchdown going to Golden. And, of course, Diego Pavia had a rushing touchdown as well, so, yeah, people saying that Diego Pavia sucks, he does not. Not even close. He's a good quarterback, he just did not have a good game against Texas. He did not have a great time. And as for receiving, Junior Sherrill had 5 catches, 62 yards, and a score, with the other touchdown going to Eli Stowers. No sacks for Texas defense, but they did have 6 pass defenses and a forced fumble by Michael Tafe, with a fumble recovery by Trey Moore, with the 2 picks going to Tafe and also Leonel Lafau. As for Vandy, Brian Longwell had double-digit tackles, and there was also 4 sacks on Ewers. Wow. Ranta Fontenay had 3 pass defenses and 1.5 sacks. There was also 2 picks in this game by Miles Capers and Martell Height. This game was down the wire. Who would have thought that Vandy would be this good to compete with not only Bama and beat them, but also compete with Texas? That's crazy. If you said that Vandy would be good at the beginning of the season, I would have said, you're cuckoo crazy right now. But here we are. Vandy is actually pretty good. Texas, not a strong game back from losing to Georgia at your own house. But you still won regardless, so that's really all that matters, I guess. And the final game from Week 9 that we will talk about is the LSU Tigers losing to Texas A&M 38-23. This was a great game, though. Don't let the final score fool you. This was a very good game. Like, both teams were playing well. It's just A&M got the victory, and they are still unbeaten in conference play. That is crazy. But the job isn't done. You gotta win more games, and A&M's off to a good start right now. Unfortunately for LSU, Garrett Newsmeyer played like Brett Favre this game. 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Yikes. And as for A&M, Connor Weigman, 6 of 18. Ouch. That is not good at all. I mean, passing game was not working out because the rushing game. Speaking of the rushing game, LSU was shut down on the rushing game this week. And also for receiving, there were 200-yard receivers in Kyron Lacey and Aaron Anderson, who also had a score, with the other touchdown going to Mr. Hero himself, Mason Taylor. He wasn't a hero this game, though. And as for A&M, 2 players had touchdowns. Le'Veon Moss had 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mari Daniels, 91 yards, almost 8 yards to carry. And Marcel Reed, he completed 2 passes this game for 70 yards total. He had 62 rushing yards, 7 yards to carry, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Wow. And your leading receiver was a 54-yard catch by Noah Thomas. LSU's defense did get to the quarterback 4 times in this game. Sage Ryan had a forced fumble with it recovered by Jordan Gilbert, but man, LSU just could not stop the run game other than the 1 turnover. And Texas A&M's defense played their hearts out this game. Despite only having 2 sacks, they got 3 interceptions in this game. Tarian York had the first pick, and then the other 2 went to BJ Mays. Wow. A&M did not allow LSU to get anything going as far as turnover battle and also on the run game because, man, A&M almost dominated this entire game if it wasn't for the fact that Newsmeyer threw touchdowns to make him look like Brett Favre for a minute. But I gotta say, Texas A&M, I am actually really impressed with you. Nobody thought you guys were going to be in contention for an SEC title. And you proved everybody wrong, including me. Keep this going, Aggies. And before I get to the AP poll, I want to talk about the next college game day, which, like I said before, is the 3-seeded Penn State Nittany Lions bringing the 4th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes to town. This game sure is to be great, but, you know, for those of you saying that Ohio State's going to lose after what happened against Nebraska, you're dead wrong. Ohio State does well under adversity, and they're going to show you that when they play on Saturday. Penn State may be undefeated, but Chase Franklin has only beaten Ohio State 1 time in his career. 1. And he's been with Penn State for almost a decade. That was back in 2016, that 1 win against Ohio State. And you know what the craziest part is? Ohio State still made the playoff that year. But yeah, Will Howard is better than people say. He's still good. He's going to show you why he is an elite quarterback, and that rushing game is going to be a lot better now that they're not playing Nebraska. And by the way, I'm on a little cold streak with college game days. I think I've lost 3 straight because I think I missed the Texas pick. It was definitely from 2 weeks ago. I picked Washington just last week against Indiana, and I lost that one badly. I ate that L. And I think I also got another one too. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I got that one wrong too. Let's just hope Ohio State will let me down this time. Oh right, it was when Ohio State played Oregon like 3 weeks ago. That was the other one. Hopefully Ohio State doesn't let me down this time. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. My reaction to the Week 10 AP poll is here. Let's get straight to it. So obviously the top 5 teams are Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, and Miami. I'm fine with that. Even though I think it's a little harsh to drop Texas 1 spot after beating the ranked Vandy team, which is kind of ridiculous, even though Miami crushed their rival Florida State 2 days ago, which is quite insane. Texas is at 6, 7 is Tennessee. They are still good for some reason. Notre Dame is at 8. I don't understand really too much about why Notre Dame is ahead of us, but you know, that went over Texas A&M. I guess it makes sense. BYU is at 9, taking over Iowa State, which is quite crazy in my opinion, and Texas A&M in the top 10, I'm actually fine with. Clemson and Iowa State are tied at 11. I don't understand why they are ties. Like, just decide 11 and 12, for the love of God. Indiana stays at 13. I guess that's fine. Bama and Boise move up to 14 and 15. I'm actually fine with that. And as for the bottom 10, LSU drops to 16, which I think is pretty crazy. I mean, I guess this is their second loss. It's just like Alabama, but, you know, I'll let that slide. Kansas State at 17, still a quality win for the BYU Cougars. Same with SMU at 20. Pittsburgh still undefeated, and they are at 18 after beating Syracuse on a Friday night. Ole Miss is at 19 as well. And also Army is at 21. I'm fine with that. They're still unbeaten. Wazoo is now at 22. People don't know, but Washington State, people call them Wazoo. I love that nickname. Colorado, Coach Prime Time is at 23. Fighting Illini is at 24. And why is Missouri still ranked? Seriously, why are they still ranked? I get it. I mean, they beat Vandy, but still, they should not be ranked after getting embarrassed on the road against Bama. Like, they should be out of there. Vandy should be 27. Missouri should be 26. And some other team should be 25. There's no way Missouri should be 25 right now. And that is going to do it for this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you get this video a like. Make sure also to hit the red subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.